We all have certain levels of baggage, and the older we get, the heavier the baggage sometimes if we don't find a way to release it. We all suffer from degrees of trauma or suppressed emotions. Today, we're going to talk about the power and magic of energy healing and how it can help you recover from your trauma. If you're feeling unbalanced or just things aren't right, or you want to manifest something in your life, then you want to try and learn about energy healing. So you're going to love my chat with Shelly Burton. She's an energy healer from Costa Rica, so check it out. Shelly, thank you so much for being with me today.
It is a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Risa.
And you're in one of my favorite countries also, Costa Rica.
I am. I'm so grateful to be here.
No, just amazing. I mean, and actually our topic is on energy healing today, and you're kind of in that perfect country to be practicing energy healing, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And the magic of it. Anybody who's done any sort of energy healing, Reiki or the like, knows the magic of it, right? Really knows the power
Absolutely.
of it.
Absolutely. People say specifically where I am in Costa Rica, Nosara, they say it's a vortex here. As the town is built on a quartz crystal bed. So a lot of people actually get pulled here, knowingly or unknowingly, for healing work. Some people come on a trip and just don't leave.
Wow.
Others run away because it brings up such deep emotion. But I really feel that the universe put me here with purpose, because I can help people work through the emotions that this land does bring up to help us get back to our nature.
Wow.
Like immersed in the jungle. Mm-hmm.
I want to actually get to your background story, but before that, can you define what is energy healing for those people who have never even heard of it?
Totally. So energy healing, there's many different forms of it. I'd say in its essence, we're working with subtle energies, life force energy, kind of that vitality that works through all living things, that is felt but maybe not seen. Some of us, like I gained the ability after a brain injury to actually see energy. But for most of us, you can think of energy as someone's vibe. You get a read off their inner being. So what we're doing is tapping life force energy, the subtle energy. If you want to go spiritual, you could say, a higher force, okay, to work through us so that we channel natural vitality to help rebalance the mental and emotional body. It can be done through hands-on healing, channeling. I blend in sound healing, which often is a crossover with energy healing, and then I mix in working with horses and all types of other things. But in its raw essence, it generally combines hands-on healing with being a channel for life force energy to work through you, to create balance and harmony within the subtle levels of your being.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that there's so many kind of compounding effects, right? When you do energy healing, it's not just about feeling good, but there's actual, I think, physiological benefits to doing
Absolutely.
energy healing.
Absolutely. I mean, if so we can do it in person. So I work in person and over the phone. So if we talk about in person, in my practice, there's that additional portion of hands-on healing. Okay, this is very powerful because touch from like a gentle, clear, soothing place down regulates our nervous system, right? We live, especially in cities and going through this pandemic, of experiencing isolation and disconnection of others. And our bodies need the sense of calm, right? And just hands-on healing brings that. It downregulates a part of the brain called the amygdala by activating another part called the insula. Okay, you can back this up with science.
Which is crazy, right?
Which is crazy. I've just dug into this.
Right.
It's not, and it's just taken time to kind of start to put the pieces together. So that for me is such a powerful component. The other part of it is, for me, I got this sensitive after a brain injury, which we can talk about later. But because I can feel other people's emotions in their body, kind of feeling where they're at, a lot of our stuck points, why we get stuck in life is we don't always know why we're stuck. That's why we seek help, right? And therapy is so powerful. I love therapy. And we can also come in with being limited to the stories we're telling, right? We're not always aware of our blind spots. When we work with energy healing, we're not only bringing the nervous system into a state of calm and teaching it, what that feels like and how to stay there, but also the practitioner, a good practitioner, a trained practitioner, okay, it takes work.
Yes, exactly.
Will be able to also feel the things you're not aware of and help bring those into your awareness and help you work through those. So there really is a powerful depth to it that is a beautiful either healing experience on its own or augment to a type of therapy, talk therapy, to help you bring you into deeper connection with yourself.
That's so beautiful. So I know you have a science background. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, like, how do you even become an energy healer? How do you go from, studying at Oxford to now being, in Nosara, Costa Rica, healing people with your hands?
Well, mine involved a significant knock to the head. I'll try to shorten a very long story. I was a science student, a varsity athlete. Biomedical science is what I was studying. And then I had a brain injury, a concussion in what was meant to be the final year of my undergraduate degree. And this was the first time in my life that I couldn't fix something by just either working harder or resting. Okay, those were always my options. You burn out, you just stop and come back and keep going. At that point in my life, I kind of felt I could do whatever I really applied myself to, and I made decisions by spreadsheets, pure logic, like, what had the most pros?
Right,
okay.
Right. A lot of people do that.
Right. That's just how I did it. I was also overwhelmed. I had overcommitted to a lot of things, and I gave myself a serious concussion in basketball and decided to try to muscle through, and I played the next day with what would have been my fourth or fifth concussion. After that, I could see energy, I could feel energy, and it's almost like if you can imagine the entire volume of the world on all your senses getting turned up way too loud, okay? But it was invisible. Nothing was showing up as abnormal on my brain scans. It was kind of like this internal pain that no one could relate to. I was stuck in and debilitated by, and I didn't know how to communicate it. And after seeing many, many doctors and Canadian concussion experts, all they were telling me to do was rest. And, I had to drop out of school. I'd just been nominated for my dream scholarship to Oxford. And after almost a year, I thought, I'm not missing school again. Like, there's got to be a way to heal this. Insert an openness to, I discovered alternative medicine. And I discovered something called intuition, that there was things my body wanted to do and didn't want to do. And if I just listened to it, my symptoms would improve. So Chinese medicine was actually the first start. And then starting to pay attention to, like, what makes my symptoms better and worse, I started crafting a new path through my life. And I got back to school. I went to Oxford to study medical anthropology, which was concepts of health and healing in different cultures, which is fascinating because I'm literally studying shamanic work and, clearing spirit possession and hands-on healing. It was amazing. Fast forward to years, and it really resonated with me simply in an academic setting. Years later, after about in entrepreneurship, starting a social enterprise, where I was going through a phase of trying to rescue or help everyone else, which was really an unconscious projection of the healing I needed. I had no idea I was doing that until I closed a nonprofit. And I moved back to Canada, the part of the healer's journey where you go through a complete identity deconstruction. And someone suggested I train in Reiki. And it was incredible to me because I just did it on a whim. And it was the first time me constantly seeing and feeling everyone's emotions made me good at something and I could help them. It was like everything in my life made sense all of a sudden. And coming from a science background, right? Coming from having been on the both sensitive and non-sensitive side of the spectrum, this is 10 years ago, I felt I was able to communicate because I could relate to being on both sides. So I basically just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and trained and trained and trained, and people liked it. So they came, and within 3 years I was full-time with a global practice.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. So when you say you see energy, what are you seeing?
So I always like to say it's like you have your physical eyes where you see like the objects in the world, and if you just soften your gaze, it's like I see subtle energy, and for me it's a multi-sensory experience. So I will see colors, I will sometimes see little bits of vibration in the air, but I will also feel in my body at the same time. So I can see and feel an energy, like an emotion, okay, at the same time. That's how I know what it is. And that's why I'm able to, for me, it makes no difference if I'm working with someone in person versus over the phone. Obviously, people tend to prefer in person because of that hands-on experience. But I can read people's emotions, and it's the same whether they're here with me or not. And that's a whole physics conversation that we can get into, because there is a sense of oneness and connection that we can all tap at the subtlest level. But yeah, for me, it's a multisensory experience of seeing colors or little vibrations and feeling it in my body.
Assuming that when you see and feel things, you can feel if they're stuck.
Yes. So
the energy is flowing.
Yes. So this is part of the training. This is why you have to do so much of your own inner work. I mean, you can take a 2-week or 2-day even course in Reiki and get certified, but that doesn't mean, that means you learned how to do it. But to be a healer, you have to know yourself. You have to be super clear on your own body, your own emotions, how to get your mind out of the way. Right? And the deeper you've kind of tracked your own internal process and emotions, the more reference points you have for what you're feeling in another person and to guide them through it. Okay?
Right.
So for me, it's really about discernment and mastering discernment and knowing how to stay clear and loving and centered in the face of pain. When you start doing hands-on healing, I remember when I feel like a baby and just starting, I put my hands on one client and I felt a history, and this trigger warning for anyone just coming up, of sexual abuse. And it knocked me over. I literally fell over because I needed to get stronger to be able to hold love and groundedness when I experienced that in another person's body. So really, the deeper you go in your own journey, and with your own wounds, the more space you can hold at the deepest, most subtle levels for another person's experience. Mm-hmm.
So how does it work as a healer, though? I mean, are you taking their bad energy, No. Is it flowing through you, or how do you help them heal, basically?
Okay. So bear in mind, my work has really developed to combine not only energy healing, but very like neuroscience-based approaches to trauma resolution. So I've kind of blended energy healing with talk therapy, with emotional work, with manifestation principles to not only get you out of your trauma, but use empathy and emotional validation to help you process that experience, and then also work into practicing thinking and feeling the thing you actually want to feel and identify with that. So I just want to put that as like a caveat over my work that might make it a little bit different or more evolved than just hands-on healing, just so we're all clear. If we go back to just energy healing, the healed healer would hopefully be out of a pattern of trying to rescue or save or take on anyone's pain, right? It's really important to trust spirit or the universe or energy to work through you to do the healing that person needs. Okay? In my experience, the clearer you are and the more trusting you are of spirit to work through you, the more profound the healing is, because your mind's not trying to interfere with like the divine design of life to create a healing that you are then certain of is happening, right? So there's that ability to get the mind out of the way. And the more
So
you
when
can
you say
trust
you, you're talking about you as
the
the
healer.
healer or the patient?
Me as the healer, the patient will
Right.
just receive, but the more the healer is able to trust the medicine coming through them, the deeper the connection and the love and the healing, in my experience, the client will receive, because there's just non-interference, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. It's almost like sound waves, right?
Yes.
If there's like static or, you know.
Yes,
If
that is such a beautiful metaphor. Your mind not trusting that by literally getting your mind out of the way and just letting the healing happen, if it doesn't trust, it will create interference. And so much of healing is about getting out of our stories and just getting back into pure connection and helping our body to rediscover its natural state of harmony outside of trauma, outside of fear, and just learn to be there a minute. And once we're there, it can start to rebalance. Okay? Then a deeper level of the work comes in, because you can't start to heal until your bot, I call it like your energy points come down, your nervous system's regulated, okay, and you feel safe, basically. Then we can start to more actively create the experience that you want in your life and practice living there, so that you create it in your life. You're not just kind of operating on the whims of what life throws at you. Mm-hmm.
Right. So as a patient,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm not really accepting of energy healing, like I don't believe it or whatnot, can you still be healed? Or like me as a patient, I'm creating so much blockage that it won't, you know, it won't go anywhere.
So this is actually a very good question, because for me, it comes down to intention. Okay. Mm-hmm. My job is to not create anything the person doesn't want, right? That would be me imposing what I want to happen on the other person. So
Right.
if there's resistance or doubt about the process, I actually welcome that. That's okay. People can come in, the patient can, or client, I say, can come in being themselves. I want the authentic version of you, and I want to know what your fears and doubts are. And I'd love to work through those up front until we get to a place you feel good about. Maybe the intention is just to explore something new. That's enough to start. Because for me, I'm supporting the person to call in what they want. So I wouldn't start a session and I use my body to kind of feel that we're clear to start until I felt that we had an intention that was really pure and true and they felt good about, and then I would work to support that. I find that this work kind of self-selects, in that if there isn't a genuine interest, people will be, and this is just my own personal experience, I can't speak for all energy healers, I find that people will be afraid to come to me if there isn't a genuine interest in the work, at least in most of their being, because it will feel scary to look at yourself or try something new until
Right.
the desire for change is stronger than the desire for things to stay the same.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we had touched upon trauma, and especially by midlife, you know, everybody has some degree of trauma, you know, and I feel like many of us don't deal with it. You know, we manifest, it becomes something else, right? It manifests itself into like some sort of chronic illness. It can manifest itself into, you know, a level of chronic stress or
Yes.
temperament or so I'm just wondering, like, I know you specialize in trauma. Is there, how does energy healing help people with trauma that they don't even know they have?
Okay.
Like they've ignored it for so long, you know.
Yeah. This is a great question. I'm going to answer it at two levels. So I'll speak to kind of general energy healing, and then I'll add in kind of the other dimension that I've just built into my practice in response to seeing what worked and what people needed to support the deepest trauma resolution. And I always call it shifting from trauma to truth, so that we live by who we want to be and we've chosen to be, rather than kind of defense mechanisms trying to keep us safe from past experiences that we're spinning around. So if I go back to nervous system regulation, As I said, so a trauma is basically a deeply distressing or disturbing life event that puts us in a state of extreme fear and shock. And that can get frozen into our memory, okay? Our nervous system, the body remembers. There's a beautiful book called The Body Keeps a Score that talks more about this for anyone wanting to learn about trauma and how it gets stored in the body. So we have a shock, okay, mixed with fear, and our body goes into a response of trying to keep us safe. What will often happen is we numb those experiences, okay? So they may not be in our conscious mind. We might not actually remember them. In PTSD, okay, the memory of them is kind of seeping through and we're spinning around them, which requires a more active intervention. We can also have traumatic memories that are subconscious. So they're stored beneath our consciousness. These memories tend to come up, okay? The reason they're there is they're underneath places we're really stuck in our life, where we can't regulate our nervous system. We're feeling really stressed. We're feeling really stressed, trapped, okay, anxious. Maybe it's an abusive relationship. Maybe it's a physical illness. There's basically your body saying, I don't feel good. Okay, if that resonates. And before we can start to heal, basically the fear and the sense of not feeling okay in the world, okay, and having pain that was too much to process in that moment, we need to feel safe. We need to feel okay. We need to feel calm. How are you going to heal if you don't feel safe? Right? So I think what energy healing can do, it offers this gentle presence, pure connection that communicates to the body. I do this work with horses, okay? And to approach a loose horse, you have to communicate to that horse by respecting their energy boundaries, okay? Their subtle sense that you're hearing them, you're listening to them. You feel them without them needing to do anything. It's very similar, and then the horse will trust you and approach you, okay? It's very similar with energy work. It's a subtle form of communication that our bodies understand. Hey, I feel you. Hey, it's okay to be here. Hey, I'm just supporting you lovingly with this energy that comes through and offers you connection. Okay? In that state of calm and regulation, the body can start to release. Okay? If you go straight into try to healing trauma before your nervous systems come down, it's almost like a math equation that doesn't add up to me, because we need that very felt sense of calm, okay, to be restored and learned. From that place of existing outside trauma, we can start to heal. Okay, but first we need to feel safe. The other levels of my work, I basically built a system. All of this has been in response to what helped me heal incredible pain, and then practicing it with others, and then it worked. So it just became a thing. Is a really big part of the work for me is understanding our emotions, labeling them, then validating them. Okay, because emotions are just responses to things that we perceived happened to us. Okay, they make sense. But we need to understand why they make sense. Otherwise, they're just stuck in the body. Okay?
Right.
So understand the emotion, validate the emotion, okay? Have compassion and empathy for the emotion, like care. Care, right? Which is, I think, probably the most profound part of energy healing is feeling care about. And then move your identity into truth, who you want to be, not who your past emotions taught you were. So I hope that answers that question on two levels, the subtle realm and then the very active processing of pain level.
No, it's amazing, the power of it. So I had a Reiki treatment done in Mexico, actually. And it was my first one. And I was like, oh, this is just going to be fun. I just kind of went into it as though this was just going to be an experience. And she said, you might feel emotional. And I was totally relaxed, calm. And then after it was over, I sat up and I was uncontrollably sobbing. Like I could not, I don't know where it came from, but this just deep, deep sadness was just released. And it was really so powerful. And that was after, a 45-minute session. So when people are doing this sort of work, does it take, consecutive sessions? Do they have to be one right after another? Can you actually be healed in one session?
Great questions. So let me go through those one at a time. And I love that you had such a profound experience. Thank you for sharing that. For me, when I worked in Toronto, so my practice was there for 9 years, I only did consecutive sessions out of an integrity piece with the work because I knew how profound it was. Part of the healing process, I always think of it as like cleaning out a rusty pipe, right? You run some really clean water through, some rust is going to come out. That's part of the cleaning process. Just because rust is coming out, it's like, that's good. Okay. So you run really fresh energy through the body and the nervous system, or clear energy, however you want to call it. And resistance to that is going to want to come up and out in the form of emotion, like sadness. So kind of that release of what might have been trapped before is a progress point. If it's your first time doing this, it can be a lot, right? Like, what do I do with this? What do I do with all the sadness? So I used to only work in consecutive sessions because I wanted to make sure people were prepared and held throughout the whole process should this emerge after one session. Okay. So I am all for multiple sessions if you have a healer you feel good about, a healer you feel really holds a compassionate space and encourages you to trust yourself and listen to yourself. Okay. I would always do at least 2 or 3 sessions if possible. Now, because I live in Nosara, which is a spiritual town where some people are extremely advanced in their work or self-development. So for people who already have a toolkit, I'm fine doing 1 session or 90 minutes and we'll get great results in 1 session because there's all that foundation of inner work that's already been done. And should a wave of emotions come up, if I'm confident they have the toolkit to process them, then no problem. Okay. I think the third question how many, can you be healed? So healing is actually a really interesting word. It's like, well, what is the definition of healing? Right? For me, it's a continual process of growth, getting back to your truth and feeling better. So what is healing? Can I get you closer to your intention? Can I help you feel better in 1 session? Absolutely. I've had people come in here off their first session and manifest their intention. They go home and they're like, I don't know what happened, but like everything we talked about happened in my life, but that's really up to the person too. They were super clear. They got into the energy and they stayed in the frequency of what they wanted, so depends on the definition of healing. I feel like my work never stops, but right. I'm always feeling better and better and better and more loving and better at navigating pain or sadness when it comes up because it's an inevitable part of the human experience, Mm-hmm.
So what about people who never have their trauma addressed or never try to...
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll let you finish.
No, it's just, I'm just thinking, I just feel like when we talk about energy healing, everybody understands what energy is, right? You walk into a room, you feel the energy.
You feel the vibe.
You feel a vibe, right? You talk to somebody, you're like, I don't know why I don't like them. I don't know why I don't trust them.
I just don't feel good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everybody, it does not matter, right? And even like, especially with animals, and you talked about horse medicine, it's so true, right? I have several dogs. It's like when you meet a dog, it's like they're totally sensing your energy, right? In terms of whether or not they can trust you. And so I'm just thinking, I just know, personally, I know a lot of deniers, right? That this sort of medicine doesn't work or, and so I'm just trying to think of like, what do you say to those kinds of people? And like, what happens when you don't address certain things? Like, yes, you can take pills and you can, whatever, you can try to mask whatever ailment is
great questions. Yeah, great questions. So first I'd say I came from a science background thinking, raised to believe all this stuff was completely woo-woo, right? So we don't often come to healing until we've hit a crisis point, right?
Exactly. Yes,
that
right.
we can't fix anything. If your life is kind of tickety-boo and going along and everything's mostly okay or manageable, why would we have to fundamentally question our beliefs about the world, right? And tune into, I'd say, I really feel like the healing process starts when you have to really deeply question the way you're doing things. Okay. An injury can, in my case, it was a physical, my body had to literally go on strike and be like, I am not going to operate anymore until you change. That's how much I wasn't listening. I was listening to what I thought I should do, but I wasn't listening to myself. Right. And I was so stubborn that for me to listen, my body had to just stop working. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
Can energy healing help people with actual physical conditions? Like if you have cancer or if you have some sort of chronic condition that's physical, right?
So great question. I never guarantee physical healings because there's so many factors. And I believe, and from my own experience of doing deep physical healings, the physical body also has its own language and you have to talk to it in that. You can't just for example, I had a herniated disc and I needed to do very specific physical therapy to teach my physical body long after my MRIs were clear that to clear the memory of it needing to protect itself. There was no magic substitute for that. Okay. What energy healing can do for me, underneath all physical ailments, there is an emotional component. Okay. Getting to it is a process. Okay. Learning to heal it is a process because by the time it's shown up in the physical body, it's really ingrained in our reality. Okay. So I think the power of energy healing is supportive at the minimum, supportive to the healing process. Okay. And at its deepest levels, if you really want to go in there, can help you discover the emotional roots. Like, why is this happening? What's stuck in my body? Like what cancer, for example, what toxic emotions got trapped that my body's isolated is trying to grow out. You know, I had a herniated disc at the back of my heart. It was literally my bones. My heart was feeling unsupported through the pandemic and all the moves, right? It was a very real thing. So I had to do the physical work, but the emotional work helped me completely change the trajectory and call in what my body was telling me I needed, which was deeper emotional support, living in the jungle in a new environment, which I then called in, and then my life improved, right? So I feel like the subtle levels of our being are so important to take care of. Our emotions. Think of it as taking care of your emotions. That matters. A pill's not going to do that for you.
Right. Well, we want it to, though, right? For a lot of people.
We want it to because then you don't have to do any work. Then you don't have to look at yourself. And the hardest part about looking at yourself, which energy healing, or at least the deeper levels of energy healing, ask you to do is look at yourself. And if we've been taught that parts of us aren't okay, and we need to shame or hide those parts or they're not acceptable, of course we're going to have resistance to the work. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a reflection of that, oh my gosh, I have so much compassion for you because you've had to hide your authentic self, or maybe you don't even know who that is, right? So I think resistance to the work is okay and makes sense. And it takes courage, right, to want to go inwards and learn that, wait, actually all parts of me are okay. And I'm going to accept them and let them be accepted by another person.
Wow. That's so amazing. I just, personally having experienced it, I just want everybody else to at least on some level experience what this healing can do for them. So as we kind of wrap this up, if people are curious, right, they've never done anything like Reiki before, what's kind of the first step? What would you recommend people do to kind of, answer some questions in their inquisitive mind,
Okay. So first I would say start with your intention. What is your intention? It's not it's a positive intention. So I want to let go of pain. Okay. I want to call in lightness. I want to call in feeling better. I want clarity on why my heart is hurting. Okay. Just get or I just want to explore something new. I want to explore. That's an intention. Get clear on what you want. Then find a good practitioner. Okay. Ask what they've studied. For me, I'm really curious as to what challenges they've overcome in their life. Okay. Because the deeper, right? The deeper the work you've done, the deeper your medicine often is. And then make sure they're listening to you. Okay? Okay? Do you feel that they're listening to what you want? Do you feel calm in their presence? Okay? Or are you feeling stressed? Start to listen to your body, and so that you find the healer you feel good about, right? So all those things add up. Okay, they've navigated a challenge. Okay, so they have some experience in this realm. I'm feeling that I can say yes or no. They're letting me trust when I feel ready for a session. Okay, that means they're listening. Okay, and do I feel good in my body about working with them? Check in with them. Does this feel like the right thing for me? And if you're not sure what that means, just do you feel better around them or not? Right. Like, keep it simple. Right. Yeah. And then sign up for a session. And then it's really important also to create space for healing. You can't just like go between 20 appointments and then have like a dinner party after your session, because your body is going to lock up, because it's going to resist healing because you haven't created the space for it to come down and receive. So also craft time for your session. Clear your day, give yourself time to have extra sleep for a few days. And I'd say commit to a few sessions. You'll get better results in my experience. You know, the first one is just getting started. It's just opening you up. Do a few and see where you end up. So that would be my advice.
Wow.
Come to Costa Rica.
Yeah, and go to Costa Rica. That's definitely the magic's there too. And then in terms of, actually, I do want to wrap this up, but I do another question has popped into my mind. Yeah. So in terms of like benefits, like what kind of benefits have you seen through your clients over the years? You know, is it like their skin is clear, they're, you know, like almost, you know, on an emotional level, but also on a physical level?
So the goal is for their energy to get clear. Okay. Like again, I work very deep with manifestation and kind of like resculpting or rewiring your mental and emotional body. So we're literally changing how you operate in the world, so you're clearer and more aligned with the thoughts and emotions that resonate with where you want to go in your life. The most common thing across the board that people feel after their sessions is lighter. They feel emotionally lighter. So that will always be, like, I'm sure you can relate to that. Even though there was a release after your session, I'm sure you most likely felt lighter.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right? So that's always, for me, that's the thing that will always happen, like an unburdening. And from there comes permission to exist or be yourself or be freer in the world. The results for me in very active manifestation work are profound, whether it's like manifesting finances, relationships, and then working through all the traumas that may have impaired, right? You believing you can have a healthy relationship, the thing that aligns for you, an abundant life. I do also family relationship healing. So I've brought mothers and a mother and son, for example, that didn't talk for years back together, and that relationship's held. You know, we had to heal abandonment trauma from the father and doing it very actively. So I basically help people process pain and unburden from it, feel lighter, and then understand the thoughts and emotions that will put them in alignment with the life they want to live. And for those who are very disciplined at the work, they're going to call it in. Absolutely. It's like a math equation. If you do the work, it's going to happen. You just have to know what input to give the human operating system.
Wow, that's so awesome. That's a perfect way to end our session. Shelly, if people want to get in touch with you or they want to hear more about you, read more about you, where do they go?
So they can go to my website. It's Shelly, Shelly, energymedicine.com or shellyburton.com. They'll both lead you to the same place. And I'd love to hear from anyone who's called to work with me. I do phone sessions, which are still powerful, and also private retreats, one-on-one for deep healing in Costa Rica.